All right, so let's go ahead and start creating our project. I'm gonna go and do everything step by step. So I'm gonna go and explain everything, but I assume that you know the basics of Flutterflow. If you're a complete beginner to Flutterflow, I recommend that you take my course Flutterflow for Beginners. So take that course first and then come back to this course. All right, so let's go ahead and create our new project. So we're gonna go here up where it says create new and click there. Then we're gonna give our project a name. So the name for our project is gonna be an events app. I'm just gonna call it events app and then click where it says create blank. And it's gonna create our project. Here it's asking us if we want to connect it with Firebase. We want to, so we're gonna go to Firebase. Let's type in firebase.google.com. So go to firebase.google.com and then go to your console. Create an account if you don't have it. Go to your console. And now we're gonna add a project. So just click on add a project and enter a project name. It's going to be events app and click on continue. Here it's asking us if we want analytics. We don't want analytics, so I'm gonna disable analytics and click on create project. And let's wait a little bit. All right, so now our project is ready. We can just click on continue. And now this will take us to our Firebase panel here. And what we're gonna do is that, first of all, we're gonna need to activate the authentication and the database. So to do that, let's go here on the left and click where it says build. I'm gonna click on authentication. And we're gonna click here on get started. So click here on get started. And now we have to choose an authentication provider. So let's choose email password. I'm gonna choose email password and then just enable email password and click save. Okay, so we have the authentication done. Now let's go ahead and activate the database. So let's go back again to the build here on the left and choose Firestore database. It's gonna ask us to create a database. So we're gonna click here where it says create database. And now it's gonna ask us if we want to start it in production mode or in test mode. I'm gonna choose test mode and click next. And for the location of the Firestore, I'm gonna set it to the United States and click enable. All right, so we have this done. If we go ahead and refresh the page, we should see that we have an empty database. For some reason, I cannot see it. Let's refresh again. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Now we have here the empty database. So we have the authentication, we have the database, because we're gonna use both things in our application. And now we have to give Flutterflow permission to access the database. So to do it, let's go ahead to this wheel, settings wheel here on the top left, and click project settings. And now let's go to users and permissions. And here we need to add a new member. So add member. And then I'm gonna just type in Firebase, add flutterflow.io. So make sure you spell it correctly. It's Firebase at flutterflow.io. And for the row, it's gonna be an editor. So click editor, done, and add member. All right, so we have successfully added Flutterflow to this project. So now Flutterflow can come in here and make some changes. And now let's go to the general tab and we have this project ID. We're just gonna copy this. So copy it, select it, copy, and let's go back to the Flutterflow project. And in here, we're gonna click on next step and we're gonna just paste the ID in here, connect. And now we have to click this button that says auto generate config files, generate files. Okay, perfect. Now we have to click where it says enable authentication and create user collection. Now we have to set the initial pages. So for the entry page, let's click on here and let's create a new page called authentication. Authentication, create blank and create page authentication. And now for the logged in page, we're gonna create a new page called events. So once our user logs in or creates an account, they're gonna be directed to this events page where they will be able to see all of the events. So create blank and create page. And we just click this button that says start building. Okay, perfect. So now we see here that we have our page. We can go to the widget tree and we can see that we have our pages here on top and the widget tree at the bottom. If you don't see it like this, maybe you have it the other way. Maybe you have it like this. So what I did was that I pressed this button here. That's next to the, so it's on top of the widget tree. It's just like a stack. If I hover over it, it says stack pages and widget tree views. If I click on it, I can see my pages here on top and the widget tree at the bottom. If I click on it again, it says separate pages and widget tree views. So you can have it separate. You can have the pages on a different tab. and the widget tree on a different tab, but I don't like it this way. I like to see my pages here on top and the widget tree on the bottom. So I'm just gonna set it that way. So I can have my pages here and the widget tree over here. Perfect. Now I need to work on the authentication page. So make sure you have the authentication page selected. And now I'm gonna change the text of the app bar. So I can do that from the properties panel, and I'm gonna change it to authentication. Okay. And now let's think about what we want to have here. We want to have maybe two tabs here, maybe, and maybe one that says login and the other one create account. So maybe it would be nice if we could have everything in the same page, everything here on the same page, and so the user can switch between tabs depending on whether they want to log in or create an account. So for that, we have a widget, and it's called the tab bar widget. So we can work from the left as we did in the previous course. We can work and add chats from here, but for this course, I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna just work in a different way. I'm gonna work with this button over here that opens a floating widget palette. Okay, so I showed you that you can drag also widgets to the screen. So that's how I'm gonna work during this course. And that way you can also understand how to work this way. So we said that we need the tab bar widget, right? So let's go and look for the tab bar widget here on the search bar. And here we have the tab bar. Let's just drag it. And once we drag it, we can put this floating panel wherever we want. Okay. And here we can see that we have three tabs. We don't need three tabs because we need one for the login and one for the create account. So let's get rid of one of these. I just hit the delete key, but you can also, to delete, you can also right click and select this delete button, okay? And let's rename this tab, okay? So let's select it, and here in the properties, rename it to login. And let's get rid of the text. So I just select the text, and I'm gonna right click and delete, okay? And now we need to add in here. We can work on here as if it was a normal page. So we're gonna add in a column. So let's look for column in the widgets here and drag in a column. So I drag the column. Now maybe we need a text field, right, for the email. So let's just drag in a text field. Just select this text field and duplicate it. So I duplicate it with Control D. And now let's just add in a button, maybe. So let's add in a button, maybe that this button is gonna say something like login. So right now we can see that the text fields are very close to the edges of the screen. So let's select the column. So the way I selected the column was that I clicked here and I selected the column. But another way that we can select widgets from here is by, for example, if I select this button, I can click here where it says button, and now it's gonna show me all of the parents of this button. So for example, the parent of this button, that's just the direct parent is the column. Then the parent of this column is the tab bar page. The parent of this tab bar page is the tab bar. And then we have the column, like the main column, and the authentication page. So from here, if you select this widget, it's very useful because you can select whatever parent you want. So in this case, we want this column, right? We want the column inside the tab bar page. And we want to add some padding to it. So in the properties, add 16 pixels to all. We want to add 16 pixels to all sides. So I'm going to click this lock icon. And now we want to add some spacing between the items. So the way we did it in the last course is we did it by adding some padding to the top of each one of these widgets. So I would select the button and I would set some padding on top, but I'm going to do it differently for this course. We're going to select the column and we're going to go down, and there's in the properties panel of the column, there's a field called item spacing. And here we can set the spacing between all of the items of the column. I'm going to set it to 8 pixels, and now you can see that there's a little bit of spacing between the items. So that's what we want. Now let's edit these text fields a little bit. So let's edit the label text, maybe from label here to email. Then for the second one, let's edit it and let's change it to password, because it's where the user will enter the password. And now we need to change this text field to a password field. So let's go scroll down in the properties panel until we see this password field in the additional properties. And let's set the icon size to 24. So the user will now be able to enter a password in this field. Now let's select the button and let's change the text of the button to login, for example. Now one thing that we can do is we can select the whole column, Control C or Command C to copy it. And then we can go to the other tab, rename the tab to create account. And and then get rid of this text, and now select the tab bar page and paste. So now we have the same thing in here. Perfect. Now we only have to change this button text to create account. Okay, perfect. Now the only thing that we need to do is we need to create the action for the buttons. So let's select the login button and let's create an action. So the action for this button is going to be login. I'm just looking for the action here. And under Firebase authentication, we have the login. We need to set the auth provider. In this case, it's going to be the email. And for the email field, it's going to be the text field number 1. And for the password field, it's going to be the password field number 1. And now let's go to the create account and let's set the action for the create account button. We're going to add an action. The action is going to be a create account. So under Firebase authentication, select create account. The auth provider is going to be the email. The email field is going to be text field number 1. Sorry, not text field number 1, but text field number 2, right? Whenever we select it, you know that it highlights. And password field is going to be the password field number 2. Perfect. And that's going to be it. And now when the user creates an account or logs in, they're going to be directed to the events page. So let's change the text of the app bar to events. And now we need maybe here a button to be able to log out. So I'm going to look for it here in the panel, on the floating panel. I'm going to look for an icon. I'm going to drag the icon here. You can see that as soon as I drag the icon on top of the app bar, there are like different sections where I can drop the icon. I'm going to drop it here. I'm going to add 16 pixels of padding to the right of the icon, change the size of the icon to 30, and change the color to white maybe. I'm doing everything from the properties panel. Now I'm going to change the icon to logout, for example, a logout icon, this one, example, could work as a logout. And now we need to set the action of this button, okay? So now let's add in the action. So the action is going to be logout. Let's go down and select logout, okay? So that's gonna be it for now. Now to test this application, we just need to click this Thunderbolt here on the top. So let's test the application and see if it works. We will need to wait a little bit. Okay, now we can see that we have the application running. It's in dark mode. We can change this later, but for now, let's just go ahead and create an account. I'm gonna create an account called j@gmail.com. And for the password, I'm gonna type in 123456. If you want to see the password, you just toggle this button or on or off. I'm gonna create an account like this, create account. This should take me to the events page. Let's see if it does that. It takes me to the events page, and now I can log out from here. I'm going to create a new account with w@gmail.com, and then 123456. And I try to log in. So this is why we get here an error, because we're trying to log in with an account that doesn't exist. So let's create the account, w@gmail.com, and 123456, create account. And now we should have both accounts created. I can log out again. And to check if the accounts have been created, we can go to the Firebase project and let's go to authentication here on the left. And we can see that we have w@gmail.com and j@gmail.com. We have our two accounts. If we go to the database here on the left, we can see that we have under users collection, we have two documents. And each of these documents makes reference to a user with all of the information. Okay, so this is working fine, and this is gonna be it for this video. I'll see you in the next video.